Part 69. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 681. Shenyazi's shaken heart suddenly became firm. Goosewitting, go back to your room. Even if she changes her policy to be gentle, she still can't accept the two of them sleeping in the same bed at the same time. What's more, there are so many people on the crew. If he stayed at her place tonight, wouldn't everyone know about it tomorrow? He didn't think about her reputation at all. However, doesn't this just prove that he was just playing for fun and didn't take it seriously at all? Shenyazi lowered his eyes to cover the sarcasm in his eyes. If Goosewitting knew what she was thinking, he would definitely cry out for injustice. She is the person he cares about most, how could he not think about her? He teleported over directly without anyone noticing. In the eyes of others, he always stayed in his room and never went out. Goosewitting looked at her for a while, but was reluctant to go against her wishes and touched her cheek. Then you go to bed early and good night. After he finished speaking, he waited to see her reaction, but he was disappointed in the end. Instead of waiting for her to stay, he couldn't wait to open the door. Goosewitting glanced at the open door and teleported away. Shenyazi looked at the empty bed, and his heart suddenly felt empty. Goosewitting stood outside Shenyazi's window out of thin air and did not leave until the lights went out. However, not long after he left, Shenyazi opened the window, jumped out of the window, and left the village. After Goosewitting left, Shenyazi was in a daze for a while. He originally wanted to practice, but couldn't calm down, so he planned to go out for a walk. But she didn't want to disturb anyone, so she walked directly through the window. Anyway, with her current cultivation level, she could easily jump from the second-floor window. Goosewitting noticed it immediately, disappeared suddenly, and followed him. Shenyazi came all the way to the lake, where insects were chirping in the mountains, and the gentle night wind carried the fragrance of lotus flowers, which was refreshing and refreshing. The full moon in the sky just rose to the center of the sky, and the moonlight shone down. Half of the lake was covered with moonlight, while the other half was covered by the shadow cast by the mountain wall. In this way, a strange scene is formed, half bright and half dark. If you look at it from the sky, you can find that the entire lake has become a yin and yang taiji fish. The system let out a sigh. This is actually a natural spirit gathering array. Do you want to go down and have a look? There is probably some treasure hidden underneath. Shenyazi thought for a while and then made a decision. She used cloud trailing step, and her body was like a light cloud, stepping onto the lake and submerging into the fish eye in the lake. Goosewitting was startled and followed closely behind. However, even though his speed was extremely fast, he was still one step slower. The appearance of fish eye was too short and fleeting, and he failed to enter the formation. At the moment when the feeling of weightlessness disappeared, Shenyazi opened his eyes and saw a crystal clear sight. There were large pieces of crystal clear stone exposed on the stone wall. As far as he could see, the colors of the crystal stones were milky white, light blue, dark blue, 4 colors of ink and blue. System, there is a top-quality spiritual stone mine hidden here. Lingxi, mine, Shenyazi's throat felt a little tight. She is no longer a newbie who has just entered the spiritual path, so she naturally knows what the spirit stone mine means. Now that the spiritual energy has revived, but it is far from reaching a strong level, the spiritual stone has become something that everyone is eager for. She had only heard of spirit stones, but had never seen one, let alone owned one. But now, there was a spiritual stone mine right in front of her. Even with Shenyazi's nature of mind, he couldn't help but feel his heart pounding at this moment. System, host, you are really lucky. The colors of the spirit stones range from light to dark, and the grades also range from low to high. Milky white is low grade, light blue is medium grade, dark blue is high grade, and dark blue is top grade. Only top grade spirit stones are mined. Only then will the best spiritual stones be produced. General high-quality mineral veins can only produce a few minerals, but here they are connected in large quantities. Even the system can't help but feel a little emotional. Shen Yizi had never been in contact with spiritual stones and had no idea about the system. She only knew that the spiritual energy here was extremely rich, as thick as mist, and it rushed into her body without even using her skills. Her cultivation had already reached the peak of the 6th level of qi refining, and she was only one step away from breaking through. At this moment, the huge and pure spiritual energy entered her body, and she broke through directly and advanced to the 7th level of qi refining. However, this is not over yet, her promotion is not over yet. From the early stage of the 7th level of qi refining, the middle stage, the late stage, the early stage of the 9th level of qi refining, the middle stage, the late stage, all the way to the peak of the late stage of the 10th level of qi refining, no matter how much she absorbs the spiritual energy, she cannot move forward. After passing that hurdle, her soaring cultivation stopped. From the 6th level of qi refining to the peak of qi refining, it only took half an hour. It was as simple as eating and drinking water. It is estimated that she is the only person in history who has broken through so easily. Shen Yizi stood up, his eyes reflected the brilliance of the spirit stone, the brilliance could not be stared into. She couldn't help but stretched out her hand towards the spiritual stone wall on one side. Wait, the system hurriedly stopped her. Shen Yizi paused. What's wrong? Take a closer look at those spirit stones. Shen Yizi looked intently and suddenly discovered that there were small bugs of the same color lying on the spiritual stones. They were somewhat similar to ladybugs, but their bodies were translucent and had a delicate cold feeling. They were motionless, almost integrated with the spirit stones, and they didn't show any breath at all. No wonder she didn't notice them before. What kind of insect is this? It was a good thing she hadn't noticed it before. When she noticed it, she discovered that the spirit stone wall was densely covered with this kind of bugs. Although they were cute and delicate individually, they were a bit scary when gathered together in such large numbers. Shen Yizi couldn't help but feel a little numb and took a few steps back. Spirit beetles feed on spiritual energy and cannot live in anything other than top-grade spiritual stone mines. Once you are approached by these bugs, they will claw at you and will not stop until they drain the spiritual energy from your body. Shen Yizi trembled all over as he imagined that scene in his mind. Her breathing suddenly became much lighter. It would be bad if she disturbed these little things. Although the spirit beetles are small, their defense power is not low. The seemingly fragile shell can withstand a full blow from the foundation building monk. Moreover, being small has small advantages and is not easy for others to detect. If you can subdue a few spirit beetles, during the battle release it and it will swallow up all the enemy's spiritual energy in a matter of minutes. Well, so what? Shen Yizi raised his eyebrows. The system was not going to make random mistakes. It had said so many things. Could it be that it was trying to trick her into buying something again? In the end, she guessed it right. The promise? A technique for cultivating spiritual consciousness. After practicing it, you can use your spiritual consciousness to mark the body of a living being and control it. That's right, 990,000 reputation points are on sale at a huge discount. Do you want it? Bring it here. Shen Yizi was very straightforward this time. I'm telling you, there won't be this store after you pass this village if you wait. Do you want it? Want me to repeat it again? Shen Yizi has a feeling that the system is getting stupider and stupider. He was so arrogant and domineering at the beginning, but now he is so slow. System, don't think I don't know you are slandering me. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 682. After getting the technique, Shen Yizi did not continue moving forward, but started practicing on the spot. Her spiritual consciousness was much beyond her own cultivation. Now that her cultivation has reached the perfection of chi refining, her spiritual consciousness is equivalent to the middle stage of foundation building. Therefore, when she practiced the first level of Wuji, she felt that it was quite smooth, and she almost encountered no bottlenecks. Breakthrough. She successfully divided her consciousness into two, two into four, and four. At this point, it could no longer be divided, and it could only be divided into four strands at most. Four strands of spiritual consciousness stretched out like tentacles, each invading the sea of consciousness of a spiritual beetle and leaving a mark on it. Because her consciousness is much higher than that of a spiritual beetle, there are almost no obstacles in the process of imprinting the mark of her consciousness. She successfully took 4 spirit beetles for her own use. Shenyazi directed the 4 little cuties to play for a while, asking them to collect a lot of spiritual stones for her. She was just collecting the spiritual stones when her head suddenly hurt. She had overused her spiritual consciousness and had to slow down. Looking at the large tracts of spiritual stones around him, Shenyazi felt that he had a long way to go. There are so many, just relying on those few spiritual beetles, when will we be able to collect them all? Shenyazi suddenly thought of a question: system, is this formation activated once every 15th day of the month? Haha, you think so? Tonight is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Next time, I'll probably have to wait another 1800 years. 1800 years, Shenyazi was unable to even marvel. So, if she doesn't collect as much as possible this time, she will never have another chance in the future. It is not her style to enter the treasure mountain and return empty-handed. The system couldn't stand it anymore and reminded, "Stupid, haven't you already mastered the first level of the promise? You can think of controlling the spirit beetle, but you haven't thought of controlling the spirit beetle king? As long as you control the insect king, this cave aren't all the spirit beetles in this place at your command." Shenyazi's eyes lit up and he did what he said, controlling 4 spirit beetles to lead the way and find the location of the insect king. This is an extremely wide cave. There is a jungle of spiritual stones that cannot be seen in the cave. These spiritual stones have strange shapes, including exotic animals and plants. They are lifelike and like living creatures. Shenyazi could even see the light emitting from the top of the hair of the strange beast closest to him. Its 2 eyes were shining, and her figure was clearly reflected in them. It is extremely quiet here, as if at some point hundreds of millions of years ago, the sky collapsed, the stars rolled back, and the vibrant creatures were frozen in time for an instant, and then wrapped in a spiritual stone shell. It will be permanently sealed here from now on. Shenyazi felt the tremor deep in his soul. "Don't be shocked, it's important to conquer the spirit beetle king," the system said in a very disgraceful way. Shenyazi. Fortunately, there was no need to look for it. The spirit beetle king ran out on his own, probably because it was disturbed. It seemed very irritable as soon as it appeared, and made a sound so sharp that the soul could not help but twist. Shenyazi hurriedly wrapped her ears with spiritual power. If she did this again, she would probably be disabled. The grandsons of insects who were summoned by the spirit beetle woke up from their slumber, moved rustlingly, and rushed towards Shenyazi like a tide. Her scalp suddenly felt numb, and she moved continuously and rushed to a spiritual stone beast. However, before she could breathe a sigh of relief, the spiritual beetle came up. She had no choice but to change her position immediately, constantly moving around on the spiritual stones and beasts. Hiding like this was not an option. Shenyazi landed on the head of a super-huge tiger-shaped alien beast. He exchanged it for a 5 elements wind and thunder formation disc from the mall to protect himself, and his consciousness shot out to invade the sea of consciousness of the spirit beetle king. The insect king felt a huge threat and let out a sharp hiss. The spirit beetle swarm immediately swarmed up and quickly rushed up, trying to eat up Shenyazi. However, they were blocked by the formation, and many of them were wiped out in one encounter. However, these insects are not afraid of death at all, and they continue to move forward, constantly gnawing at the protective shield formed by the formation. Fortunately, Shen Yizi had dug up a lot of spiritual stones before, and they could come in handy now. However, due to the ferocity of the spirit beetle, the formation can only last for 10 seconds at most. Just 10 seconds is enough. Shen Yizi's consciousness struggled with the willpower of the spirit beetle king, invading inch by inch. Finally, at a certain moment, the spirit beetle king suddenly stopped motionless, and the struggle in his eyes disappeared. Shen Yizi successfully left a mark on the insect king's sea of consciousness and conquered the insect king. She gave it her first order. The insect tide retreated under its command and began to mine spiritual stones frantically. Of course, those Shen Yuchen in the cave did not let them move. She wiped her forehead, jumped down from the spiritual stone beast, and landed lightly on the ground. The palm-sized spirit beetle king obediently crawled in front of her and said something to her in insect language. Because it has been imprinted on its sea of consciousness, Shen Yizi can understand the meaning it expresses even though he does not understand the insect language. The insect king told her that there was a treasure deep in the cave. It is precisely because of this treasure that it can unlock its spiritual intelligence and stand out from many spiritual beetles to become the king of insects. Shen Yizi asked the insect king to lead the way, and finally came to an indescribably huge alien beast. The alien beast's body was dark blue and crystal clear, and it was also composed of spiritual stones. Although it was a dead thing, it gave people a sense of greatness. Pressure. The spirit beetle crawled into the mouth of the giant beast and motioned for her to follow. If she hadn't been sure that she had controlled this spiritual beetle king, don't think that it wanted to take her to a secret place and kill her secretly. Shen Yizi jumped up. When his strength was exhausted, he used his toes to borrow strength from the alien beast. He jumped up again and fell directly into the alien beast's mouth. In the belly of the alien beast, a round jade stone as big as a baby's palm hung in the air, emitting a vibrant green light that illuminated the space within several meters. Shen Yizi secretly thought, but he didn't know what kind of treasure this was. Just as she was thinking about how to take it off, the jade stone flew towards her. Whether it was her imagination or not, she felt a joyful emotion from the jade stone. She subconsciously caught the jade stone. However, the moment the jade touched her, it blended into her skin. She was shocked. System. Do not move. Shen Yizi watched helplessly as the jade completely disappeared into the palm of her hand. The last bit of bright light disappeared and the surrounding area dimmed. The next moment, her eyes blurred, and when she opened them again, she was in a completely unfamiliar place. A golden liquid body the size of a basketball is suspended in the air. Its surface is like water, and it emits a warm light like the sun, but it is not dazzling at all. Even though Shen Yizi looked directly at it, he didn't feel any discomfort. The sphere was translucent, and there was an embryo curled up inside. It had small hands and feet, and it had already begun to take shape. Looking at it, an inexplicable emotion welled up in her heart, which seemed to be close, attached, or moved. Shen Yizi put a flying talisman on himself, came to the side of the sphere, and gently put his hand on it. In an instant, a huge amount of information poured into her sea of consciousness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 683. After a long time, Shen Yizi withdrew his hand and looked at the sphere in front of him with a complicated expression. This is actually the embryo of a star, the embryo of a star. When this star fetus is conceived, it will become the master of the entire planet. This is the star palace where the star fetus is conceived, a completely independent space. The vegetation here is lush, the land is fertile, and there are mountains, jungles, lakes, and streams. It is like a small world, and the aura is so rich that it has almost turned into substance. But except for the star fetus, there are no other living beings. It was so quiet that time seemed to have stopped. The top-grade spiritual stone mine outside is only formed by the spiritual energy overflowing from the star palace. The system no longer knows how to describe its mood at this moment. The host's luck was so strong that when he went out to pick lotus leaves, he came across a naturally formed formation. Inside the formation was a top-quality spiritual stone mine that made even him jealous. That's all. Conquered a spirit beetle king, and finally recovered a star fetus. What kind of unlucky luck is this? The star fetus is still a star fetus that has not been conceived and has not yet given birth to consciousness. When it grows up, it will become the of the entire planet, and she will be the mother of the god. It doesn't know what to say anymore and feels it needs to be quiet. Originally, Shen Yizi was worried about how to transport the spiritual stones away. Now that we have the Star Palace, is this still a problem? Coming out of the Star Palace, with the thought in her mind, she collected all the spiritual stones, strange beasts, and plants of various shapes into the Star Palace. Under the encouragement of the Insect King, the spirit beetle swarm accelerated the speed of mining spirit stones. For a while, the only sound that could be heard in the cave was the sound of chewing spirit stones. The listeners were heartbroken, and Shen Yizi simply closed his hearing. Seeing the pile of spiritual stones on the ground rapidly increasing, her heart was bubbling with joy. Zayyashan, inner circle. A white shadow flashed past, running through the forest at high speed. Behind it, a group of people were chasing after it. Suddenly, the white shadow disappeared, and the group of people lost its trace. "Where have you gone?" asked the girl who was leading the group. She has a face as beautiful as a fairy and an extraordinary temperament. She is the pride of the Wang family, Queen Yun. Following her were the people sent by the Wang family to protect her. The leader's consciousness spread out, catching a slight movement, and his eyes shot in a certain direction like lightning. "Miss, the little beast is over there." Before the words were finished, the people were the first to rush out, and Xianfei sprang out again, passing by in a flash. Wang Yunjiao shouted, "Chase!" Shen Yizi came out of the lake in a good mood, cast a small spell on himself, and his body quickly became dry. Before she had taken 2 steps, a white shadow slammed into her arms, and she staggered and almost fell into the lake. At first glance, it turned out to be the cat-like beast I encountered at the lakeside during the day yesterday. At this moment, its snow-white hair was dyed red with blood, and there was a blood hole on its waist and abdomen. It was obviously seriously injured. Its big, moist, and clear eyes looked at her pleadingly. Shen Yizi felt something in his heart, so he fed Xianfei a rejuvenation pill and took it into the Star Palace. "Stop!" Shen Yizi turned around with a handful of lotus leaves in his arms, and a group of people came to him in the blink of an eye. The leader was a good-looking young girl. Behind her were several neatly dressed subordinates, all of whom had obvious spiritual energy fluctuations. The one with the highest cultivation level has reached the middle stage of foundation building. Shen Yizi was surprised in his heart. He just didn't know. There was confusion on his face. "Did you call me just now? What's the matter?" The moment he saw her face, Wang Yun's pupils shrank, and Shen Yizi knew that he did not expect to see her again under such circumstances. Wang Yun, Mi Yang to be precise, this time she did not use her original appearance, but asked Samsara Pan to remold her facial features to avoid being recognized by Gu Swiding. The shadow of being almost killed by Gu Swiding last time still lingered in her heart, which made her dare not act recklessly, so for the 2 years since she came to this world, she has been faithfully following the persona assigned to her by the reincarnation disc. Facts have proved that her disguise was successful, and Gu Swiding has not found her yet. As long as she can survive, Gu Swiding will remain imprisoned in this world, and then she can pursue what she wants. The moment she saw Shen Yizi, she couldn't help but feel a little broken, and her body released the coercion of a perfect chi refining monk. Shenyazi has done bad things to her a few times, so it's not too much for her to give her a little lesson, right? This pressure is nothing to Shenyazi, but on second thought, she has hidden her cultivation at this moment. In the eyes of these people, she is just a mortal. It would be really suspicious if she did not react under pressure. Like this, her face turned pale and she fell to the ground. Wang Yun came over and stared at her condescendingly. Did you see a white cat-like animal just now? That was my pet, and it ran away accidentally. Pet? Shenyazi sneered in his heart, who would treat pets like that? I'm afraid it's prey. She simply sat on the ground, shook her head, and said with some difficulty, I didn't see it. Wang Yun stared at her hand pressing on the green lotus leaf. It was snow white and crystal clear, as soft as boneless, and even the best brush could not describe it. Her eyes flickered, and a desire for destruction was brewing in her chest. You really didn't see it, Wang Yun's coercion poured out, pressing towards Shenyazi. Imagining her vomiting blood and being powerless under his own pressure, she couldn't help showing a hint of pleasure in her eyes. Unexpectedly, a figure appeared out of thin air at this time, and a terrifying and cold aura around him was as strong as the abyss and the sea, making people unable to even breathe. The coercion crushed over her. Wang Yun, who was nearest, bore the brunt of it. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her face instantly lost all color. The guards were also shocked by the coercion, their blood surged, their faces turned pale, and they could not stand firmly. Senior, please forgive me. We have no ill intentions, we are just asking the little girl for directions. Wang Mao, the head of the guard, was lying on the ground, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead, and panic in his heart. No malice. Oh, if I had come a step later, she would have died. Gu Switting moved his fingers slightly, and Wang Yun's body was hit by an invisible force and flew backwards, hitting a big tree hard. He screamed and almost fainted. Go away, he said calmly. Wang Mao seems to have been pardoned, and he seems to have left with Wang Yun. Wang Yun forced her eyelids to take a look before she passed out. When she saw that extremely familiar handsome face, she was shocked and fainted completely. Gu Switting stretched out his hand towards Shenyazi. How long do you want to sit on the ground? Shenyazi did not take his hand and stood up. Thank you very much. She can handle it even if he doesn't come. The girl's distant and indifferent attitude should not be too obvious. Gu Switting's heart choked, and he slowly took back his hand, clasped it behind his back, and stared at her seriously for a while. His heart was cruel. So good, you want to keep a distance from me, but I want to let you, a heartless person, care about you again to me. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 684. What did you find in the formation in the lake? Gu Switting asked calmly, with the cold expression and the demeanor of a big boss, which was completely different from the previous one who acted coquettishly and deliberately took advantage of her. Although this was the effect she wanted to achieve, when it came true, Shenyazi felt a sudden loss in her heart. She suppressed the emotion forcefully. Why should I tell you? She picked up the lotus leaves on the ground and walked towards the village. Gu Switting stretched out his hand toward her. Shenyazi thought he was going to do something to her again, so he backed away suddenly, but he grabbed his shoulder and couldn't move. She watched helplessly as his hand came closer to her. However, he did not touch her, but only took a lotus flower from her arms. If you don't want to say it, just forget it. He has no interest in formations or anything like that. He is only interested in him. She doesn't want to say it, and there is no reason for him to force her. Thinking that the lotus was carefully held in her arms and seemed to be tainted with her breath, she put it to the tip of her nose and smelled it with interest, with tenderness in her eyes. Flowers are even more beautiful than beautiful women. This tenderness of bowing her head gave Shenyazi a critical blow in his heart. Her heartbeat suddenly accelerated, but she quickly calmed her mind and kept thinking silently in her heart, color is emptiness, color is emptiness, color is emptiness. By this time, it was getting light. In the village, a group of people have lined up and are getting ready to do exercises. Seeing Shenyazi and Guswitting coming back together, holding lotus flowers in their arms, everyone's eyes were filled with blazing gossip. Li Zhenzhen ran over and hugged Shenyazi's arm. Zhizi, I thought you had left. I was scared to death when I didn't see you when I woke up in the morning. Shenyazi stuffed the lotus leaves into her arms. How come I don't even say hello when I want to leave? Go and wash this, and I will make you a breakfast at the end. Li Zhenzhen cheered, but did not walk away immediately. He pulled Shenyazi away a few steps, glanced at Guswitting quietly, and put on a serious face. Zhizi, tell me honestly, what are you and the big boss doing, relationship? From what I saw, you two have gone into the woods twice. Did you do something unspeakable behind my back? She crossed her fingers and smiled ambiguously. Shenyazi raised his head and said, where did you think you were? We just met by chance. Looking at the expression on her face that said, it's weird if I believe you, Shenyazi made a move to grab the lotus leaf back. Are you going? If you don't go, I won't do it for you. Go, go, and, I'm going right away. Li Zhenzhen ran away holding the lotus leaf. Shenyazi laughed. When he turned around, he saw Guswitting looking at him, his eyes so deep that he seemed to drown her in them. She lowered her eyes, walked past him expressionlessly, and returned to her room. Shenyazi scanned the room with his spiritual consciousness and found nothing suspicious. With a wave of his hand, a small snow-white beast covered in blood appeared in the room. It was the that she had taken in before. Under the influence of the rejuvenation pill, its injuries have healed a lot. As soon as it landed, it rubbed in front of her affectionately, looking at her with ethereal and pure eyes. Shenyazi's heart melted when he saw it. He took it into his arms and stroked it several times. The snow-white hair is smooth and soft, and it feels so good that I can't help but touch it. It's just that the blood stains on it are very annoying. Shenyazi carried Xianfei into the bathroom, carefully avoiding its wounds, washed it clean, and then dried its hair. The originally embarrassed Xianfei instantly became fragrant, and its snow-white fur was as fine silk. Satin, shiny and shiny. Ah! What a cute cat! Zhizi, where did you find it? It's so cute. Li Zhenzhen saw that Shenyazi hadn't come down for a long time, so he ran to find her, only to see her with a beautiful and cute cat. The kittens got together and pounced on each other, wanting to have a close contact with the cat. However, sprang away nimbly and escaped from her clutches. Li Zhenzhen caught Xianfei's hair several times without touching it, and couldn't help but look at her sadly. Shenyazi picked up Xianfei, who was watching Li Zhenzhen warily, and fed her a small dried fish. Can you touch this, sister? Xuanfei seemed to understand what she said. He glanced at Li Zhenzhen, then lowered his head to eat the dried fish. Apparently there is no objection. Li Zhenzhen cautiously came over and touched Xianfei's head. The touch felt so good that she almost screamed. It's a pity that Xianfei only touched her once and turned her head away. Li Zhenzhen felt envious and jealous. Zhizi, where did you get this kitten? I don't know, I saw it in my room when I opened the door. I guess it was attracted by the smell of dried fish in my room. Shenyazi couldn't say that Xianfei was a spiritual beast that she had rescued from others, so she could only deny that she didn't know. Li Zhenzhen became even worse after hearing this. If I had known, I would have kept that bag of dried fish for a few more days. Maybe the little guy would have run into my room. Alas, I am really greedy. Ever since I started doing weight loss exercises with you, I fell. She sighed and looked at Xianfei like Grandma Wolf looking at Little Red Riding Hood. Come on, such a beautiful and cute kitten, how can you not take photos as a souvenir? Li Zhenzhen, a selfie geek, was lost for a while, and then regained his composure. He took out his mobile phone and approached Shenyazi, who was holding Xianfei, and took a few beautiful photos. Quickly edited a piece of text, paired it with a picture and sent it to Weibo. There were a lot of comments below very quickly. The charm of the cat owner is indeed invincible. Many fans who have been diving for thousands of years have also been attracted by Xianfei. They have spread rumors below and asked for more beautiful photos. Shenyazi glanced at the comments and felt moved. He asked Li Zhenzhen to take some photos of himself and Xianfei and send them to WeChat. Li Zhenzhen immediately liked her and occupied the front row sofa. Because of this wave of operations, Shenyazi gained a lot of reputation points. She seems to have found another way to earn reputation points. After breakfast, Shenyazi waved goodbye to everyone's reluctant eyes. "Let's go, I'm just about to go back to the company and I'll give you a ride. You're welcome," Gu Switting said as he passed by Shenyazi. Yes, Zhizi, just take Ziahe's car back. It's not easy to take a taxi here," Lueguo said from the side. Shenyazi glanced at Gu Switting's back and responded with a smile. "Xiaohe, I will leave it to you if you know it. You have to help me send him home safely," Lueguo warned Gu Switting worriedly. Gu Switting nodded. "Mr. Lu, don't worry." Shenyazi got into the car and was far away from Gu Switting. However, Li Zhenzhen showed a knowing look and leaned into Shenyazi's ear. He also said that it has nothing to do with the big boss. This person is a stranger and is not allowed to enter the owner. It is said that no one else has ever been in his car except the driver. He. Without waiting for Shenyazi to explain, she stepped back. "Zhizi, please remember to send me a message when you arrive. Goodbye, ice cream, sister will miss you." Ice cream is the name given by Shenyazi to Fixiao. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 685. Li Zhenzhen finally blew a kiss to Xianfei, who was lying in Shenyazi's arms. Shenyazi said angrily, "Come on, I heard Director Lu calling you." The car started and Shenyazi turned around and saw Gu Switting sitting on the seat with his eyes closed and concentrating, obviously with no intention of talking. She was also so happy, leaning back and stroking the ice cream with her fingers. The car suddenly stalled halfway through the drive. The driver got out of the car and checked for a while and said it had broken down. Gu Switting's expression remained unchanged. "How long will it take to repair?" The driver looked troubled and said, "It will probably take more than half an hour." Shenyazi got out of the car and looked around. He didn't know where he was in the wild mountains and wild mountains. The car broke down at the wrong time. Gu Switting repaired the car with the driver. Shenyazi had never mastered the skill of repairing a car in his life, so he could only stand aside and hand the tools to the two of them from time to time. Of course, the main purpose is to deliver it to Gu Switting, and the driver dare not use her. It happened that the house leaked and it rained all night. The car hadn't been repaired yet. It started raining heavily. Shenyazi got wet all of a sudden, and the ice cream in his arms turned into a drowned cat. Gu Switting strode over and put her into the car. He also got in and said to the driver, "Don't repair it yet. Let's wait until the rain stops." He threw the ice cream into the front seat and handed it to the driver. Then he raised the fender, took out a large towel from the space ring, and wiped Shenyazi's face and hair without saying a word. There was no expression on his face, but his movements remained constant. Very softly. Shenyazi dodged for a moment, but his head was fixed by his big hands. "Don't move," his voice was hoarse. Shenyazi wanted to say, "Don't you know how to do magic? Once a spell is cast, shouldn't it be done immediately?" But looking at his serious look, he didn't say anything. After wiping her hair and wiping her face, Gu Switting moved very gently, as if he was afraid of breaking her delicate skin. He held a towel in his hand and traced her facial features bit by bit, from forehead, to cheeks, to chin, to lips. His thumb inadvertently brushed across her lips, and both of them were shocked. Shenyazi raised his eyes, and he lowered his head. The moment they looked at each other, it seemed as if something uncontrollable exploded in an instant, sweeping the two of them. Gu Switting's eyes instantly ignited with fire, and he pressed her into his arms, lowered his head, and captured her pink lips. The rain could be heard outside the car, and the heat was billowing inside the car. The driver sat in the driver's seat and looked at each other with the ice cream. Finally, Ice Cream lay down on the passenger seat and took a nap out of boredom. This rain lasted for more than 2 hours. The boss's order came from behind, drive. The voice was full of satisfaction. The driver immediately started the car and drove out smoothly. In the back seat, Gu Switting adjusted his posture to make the person in his arms sleep more comfortably. Asterisk. When Shenyazi woke up, she found herself lying in Gu Switting's arms, with their upper bodies touching each other. She put one hand into his nightgown, and his strong and warm chest was under her palm. The most terrible thing is that she has one leg across his abdomen. The whole person was wrapped around him like an octopus. His arms were wrapped around her waist, and his chin rubbed the top of her hair. Such an intimate and intertwined posture made Shenyazi's whole body freeze. The previous memories came back, and she wanted to explode on the spot. Even though we agreed to keep a distance, we still lost to hormones. Gu Switting, this beast, got out of hand after one kiss and wanted to swallow her whole body. Although she didn't make it to the last step, it was more embarrassing for her than making it to the last step. He actually, I don't know whether it was because he kissed her or because she was angry, but she felt helpless and fainted. Shenyazi's whole body was on fire just thinking about it. "Are you awake?" came a soft voice from above. Gu Switting hugged her upwards, making the two of them closer together, sleep a little longer. When he was with her, he realized that sleeping was such a pleasant thing. Of course, as long as he is with her, he is happy no matter what he does. Shenyazi was buried in his arms like an ostrich. Forget it, it had come to this, and it would be hypocritical to keep a distance. Asterisk. After being raised like a pig by Gu Switting for a few days, Shenyazi decided to stand up and could not continue to be like this. I was about to call my agent, Sister Gu, to ask if there was any notice to run away, but she called me first. Zhizzy, Yan Ran is going to shoot a MV for a new album recently, and he intends to invite you to be the heroine. I have already negotiated with Yaeshi and will send someone to pick you up when the time comes. The information has been sent to you. Email, please make preparations. Gu Junru is as vigorous and resolute as ever and speaks concisely. After hanging up the phone, Shenyazi clicked on the information and started reading. Yan Ran's album is called Touch, and Touch is its title song, which is also the song she will shoot the MV for this time. When Gu Switting came back from get off work, he saw her sitting on the soft couch in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at something seriously. She was wearing a dress that he picked out for her before going out in the morning. The color of the dress gradually changed from snow white to sky blue from top to bottom. It was soft and fresh, making her skin whiter and more tender. Two thin straps hang on the shoulders, revealing the round shoulders. The skirt is loose in style, and when the wind blows, it makes the waist appear more slender, and he can hold it with one hand. Gu Switting walked over, hugged her from behind, buried his head in her neck and sniffed deeply, feeling an indescribable sense of satisfaction filling his heart. Shenyazi was slightly startled. "You're back. Well, did you miss me?" Gu Switting looked at her snow-white shoulders, which were so white and tender, as if they could out water. His mouth suddenly felt dry, and he couldn't hold it back for a while, so he lowered his head and took a sip. A red mark immediately appeared on it. Shenyazi glared at him angrily. "How can I go out to meet people when you call me like that?" Gu Switting smiled happily and held her on his lap. there are all puppets here, who will see them. As he said this, he became more and more bold in his actions. Shenyazi grabbed his dishonest hand and said, "Goosewitting, don't make trouble, I still need to read the information. Look at what's yours, and I'll do what's mine," Goosewitting said shamelessly. Shenyazi was really defeated by him. "When we first met, I thought this man was cold and mysterious, but the more we got along with him, the more I realized he was a shameless hooligan who was capable of all kinds of bad things." Shenyazi hugged his neck and kissed his chin. "I'm hungry. I want to eat curry chicken and tomato stewed beef brisket. Can you cook them for me?" "You can't do it by force. This person's force value is several galaxies higher than hers. He can suppress her with one finger. She will be the one who suffers at that time." But such soft-spoken coquettishness often has astonishing effects. Although it is still inevitable to be taken advantage of by him. But it's the lesser of two evils. It's much better to be caught and kissed by him than to be unable to get out of bed all day. Goosewitting licked her lips with unsatisfied intention, and saw that her cheeks were rosy, her watery eyes were watery, her petal-like lips were slightly open, exuding a fragrant breath that made people's blood rush, and her eyes were dark. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 686. After a while, he finally regained some control and touched her face. "Wait for me." Shenyazi was lying on the soft couch, his chest still rising and falling. He turned his head and saw the face reflected on the glass wall. He was confused and shocked for a moment. Is this girl with eyebrows stained with honey, is she? Male is misleading. Goosewitting had finished cooking, and when he came to call Shenyazi, he saw her still lying on the soft couch in the same position as before, looking straight at the sky with a blank expression. His heart suddenly panicked. He strode over, picked her up like a child, and weighed her as if to see if she had gained weight. "What are you thinking about, huh?" Shenyazi came back to his senses and blinked. "If I'm not allowed to be in a daze, will I stay in a daze? No, in front of me, you can only think about me." Goosewitting took the soft flesh on her cheek and rubbed it. "Goosewitting, loose your mouth, your face is swollen from your bite." Shenyazi pushed him in the face. Is there any? Let me take a look." Goosewitting looked at her face and said, "It seems to be a little swollen." "It's all my fault. I'll help you reduce the swelling." He licked it up. "This is swelling reduction? I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about swelling." Shenyazi covered his mouth to resist his attack. Goosewitting turned his head to avoid her hand, insisting on kissing her. The two of them got into a fuss for a while. The way he held her was already irritating, but this friction made Goosewitting even more angry. He suddenly stopped and looked at her with his eyes, like a wolf and a tiger. Shenyazi was startled and didn't dare to make any more trouble. He patted him on the shoulder and said, "Put me down quickly. It's not like I don't have legs. If this continues, I will become useless." Such a shameful and intimate gesture, she could only feel the reaction of his body very clearly. Goosewitting patted her and said, "Don't move." "Goosewitting," Shenyazi was so embarrassed that his toes curled up. Goosewitting pressed her forehead against hers and said in a sweet voice, "Yes, I'm here." Shenyazi's anger suddenly evaporated. "Forget it, let him be. Shame is a thing that disappears if you make a fuss about it. The meals are all made with spiritual ingredients, and Goosewitting's cooking skills are excellent, so the taste is amazing." Shenyazi was full again. It is supported both by food and spiritual energy. After dinner, the two of them sat on the sofa. Goosewitting let her lie on his lap, put his big palm on her belly, and massaged her gently and gently. Shen Yizi closed his eyes and hummed softly in comfort, just like a satisfied kitten, which was really endearing. Gu Switting's heart was so full that she felt that she couldn't see enough, couldn't love her enough, and wished that her soul was entangled with her. Thinking of the soul, his expression suddenly changed, a little spiritual light gathered on his fingertips, he drew a talisman formation in the air, and sent it between her eyebrows. Form a lifelong bond with her. Although they have already formed a bond once, this is a trial world and she does not remember the past. He wants to see if he can use the bond to awaken her memory. Shen Yizi seemed to sense something and opened his eyes. Gu Switting leaned forward and took her lips in his mouth with great gentleness. This kiss makes people sink. Who would have thought that at this moment, an excited voice sounded, "Sister dash." Followed by a sound, meow. It was Ning Ning and Ice Cream who came, and Lin Nan followed slowly. Shen Yizi pushed Gu Switting away suddenly, climbed to the side and sat down, straightened his skirt and loose hair, coughed lightly, and then looked at the little guys. Facing the pure eyes of Ning Ning and Ice Cream, Shen Yizi felt embarrassed and looked away. That scene just now was watched by a child. It was really a sin. She couldn't help but glare at the culprit. With his strength, how could he not notice the arrival of Ning Ning and others? But instead of stopping, he kissed her even more vigorously. He must have done it on purpose. Gu Switting blinked innocently. Zhizi had wronged him this time. Normally, he could naturally sense the approach of others, but just now, he was completely distracted by her. How could he notice anything else? Shen Yizi stroked his hair uncomfortably. "Ning Ning, come here, come to sister." Snowcake meowed and rushed into her arms first, occupying a perfect position. Unexpectedly, a freezing gaze was shot at it, and along with the unparalleled pressure, it suddenly shivered, its desire for survival was overwhelming, and it ran to the side. At this moment, Gu Switting was satisfied. He sat next to Shen Yizi and put a hand on her waist, possessing her. The man of the house greeted Lin Nan and Ning Ning with great style. This time the two of them came over at once because Shen Yizi didn't trust them, and the manner was too quiet and cold, so he wanted them to come over and stay with him. After signing a series of conditions that were humiliating the country, Shen Yizi finally persuaded Gu Switting to agree. Before, she was thinking that Ning Ning and the others were about to arrive, but she was kissed so hard by him that she forgot about it. She actually forgot that she was bumped into by a few little guys, which was so humiliating. Lin Nan glanced at Gu Switting and saw that he and Shen Yizi were very close, and frowned. Is this person's Yizi's boyfriend? Why do the two of them seem so close? It can be seen that sister's Yizi is only a freshman in college, but this man looks to be in his mid-20s. He has already entered the society, and looking at where he lives, you can tell that he comes from an extraordinary family. Will his family agree with him being with sister's Yizi? Although he felt that sister's Yizi was so outstanding that no one could match her, her identity as an orphan was unlikely to be accepted. Not to mention those wealthy families, even some ordinary families are very picky about orphans. Lin Nan thought and frowned even deeper. Gu Switting saw through his thoughts almost instantly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He stood up and walked past him. "Let's go, do me a favor." Lin Nan was surprised for a moment and followed him. Shen Yizi glanced at the two of them, feeling a little strange, but didn't think much about it and continued to play with Ning Ning and the ice cream. In the kitchen, Gu Switting carefully washed the fruits, peeled them and cut them into pieces one by one, while Lin Nan worked on the side. After a while, a colorful and sweet fruit platter came out. Gu Switting also carved a lifelike flower from an apple and placed it beside it. Throughout the whole process, neither of them said a word. While carrying the fruit out, Gu Switting said something to Lin Nan. Lin Nan was stunned and stared at his back with a strange look on her face and remained silent for a long time. It wasn't until Shen Yizi called him that he reacted. Looking at her bright and dazzling smile, Gu Switting's words just now rang in his ears again, "Your sister is mine. You must not stay on her for more than 3 seconds, otherwise, you will experience the consequences yourself." Lin Nan suddenly smiled, his original worries swept away, a smile appeared on his face, he strode over and joined the happy and noisy team. Shen Yizi received a call from Gu Junru early in the morning, saying that he would come to pick her up, but Gu Switting snatched the phone away, "Send me the address and I will send her there later." Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 687. On the other end of the phone, Gu Junru looked at the phone that was hung up. That voice just now, Xueting and Gigi? Isn't it what she thought? It turned out that it was exactly what she thought. In the lobby of Yaeshi building, Gu Junru couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Gu Switting, who personally carried Shen Yizi to the bottom of the building and opened the car door for her to help her down. Is this still her cousin who always keeps a distance from women? After Gu Switting left, she immediately stepped forward and said, "Zhizi, you and Switting." Before Shen Yizi could answer, Gu Junru already knew the answer when he saw that she was wearing the latest summer fairy skirt from KW, King's Woman. KM's clothes are world famous for their well-made and unique styles. Each piece is handmade by masters. From spinning, dyeing, design to tailoring to embroidery, they are all made by machine hands. Each piece is unique and unique. As long as she is a woman, I am afraid she cannot resist the beauty of his clothes. However, KM can only release 3 new products every season. Each one is unique and breathtakingly beautiful, so not only the rich and powerful can buy it. Being very rich and powerful, Shen Yizi knew that it was impossible to buy it herself, so her cousin Iron Tree, which had not bloomed in 27 years, could only buy it to please the beauty. Looking at Shen Yizi's bubbly beautiful skirt, Gu Junru felt a burst of envy. The little girl was already beautiful, and when she put on this dress, she sparkled even more. Even though Gu Junru claimed to be voluptuous and beautiful, standing next to her now, she still felt like she was being compared to the ground. Shen Yizi looked at her strange eyes and felt a little uncomfortable. "Sister June, are you? Let's go up." Gu Junru silently distanced herself from her and nodded, "Let's go." When they entered the elevator and they were alone, Gu Junru put an arm on Shen Yizi's shoulder. "Zhizi, tell me honestly, how far have you and Switting developed?" She touched the skirt and said, "Tisk, tisk, tisk, I didn't expect that Xueting would have an enlightenment one day. I thought he would be an orphan, but now he will buy beautiful skirts to please the little girl. Didn't you know, this skirt is KM new summer style for home. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it in a magazine, and I fantasized about how nice it would be if it were worn on me. I didn't expect that you are wearing it now. Come on, give me a for my sister." As he spoke, Gu Junru raised his hands to Shen Yizi. Shen Yizi quickly begged for mercy, "Sister June, are you? Please don't, haha, itchy." Ding. The elevator door opened. Chiao Wen, who was standing outside, saw the scene in the elevator and his eyes widened immediately. In the elevator, Gu Junru pressed Shen Yizi against the corner of the elevator. He put one hand on her waist and the other on her chest. The two were very close to each other and their bodies were pressed together. They looked extremely ambiguous. Chiao Wen's mind was frantically scrolling. Damn it! I didn't expect that Gu Junru would have such a relationship with her artists. No wonder Gu Junru hasn't been close to any man in so many years. It turns out that she is a lesbian. Chiao Wen had a shocked expression on his face as if he had discovered some kind of truth. Then he realized something and hurriedly turned around. He said, "I didn't see anything. You continue." Gu Junru let go of Shen Yizi and the two looked at each other. Why did Chiao Wen look at them strangely? Without thinking much, the two straightened their clothes, walked out of the elevator, and followed Chiao Wen to the recording studio. "Zhizi, you're here, As soon as he entered, Yan Ran gave Shen Yizi a big hug. "Zhizi, did you miss me? It's only been a few days since I last saw you, and you're so cool again." Yan Ran pinched her face with itchy hands. "What are you doing? Don't even think about taking advantage of ours." Zhizi Gu Junru roughly pulled him away, and pulled Shen Yizi behind him in a defensive posture. Seeing this, Qiao Wen became more and more sure of his guess. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he leaned into Yan Ran's ear and said, "Of course, you'd better stay away from Shen Yizi." Yan Ran's eyebrows immediately rose, but before he could express his anger, he was stunned by the secret revealed by his agent. "Gu Junru and Shen Yizi are this one." Yan Ran made a finger gesture and looked over there, and sure enough she saw Gu Junru holding Shen Yizi in a domineering queen manner, full of dominance. He didn't believe it at first, but now he's not sure either. Qiao Wen nodded heavily and whispered, "I saw it really just now. Didn't you ask me to see if Shen Yizi had arrived? As soon as I got to the elevator, I saw two people coming up in the elevator. As soon as the elevator door opened, guess what I saw?" "What?" Qiao Wen looked around like a thief, then leaned closer to his ear. The two of them were playing elevator together. "Hiss," Yan Ran took a breath. "Be afraid of being broad. So now you know why I asked you to keep a distance from Shen Yizi." Qiao Wen gave him a look of understanding. As everyone knows, the behavior of the two of them hiding in the corner and secretly biting their ears is indescribable to some people. As the saying goes, you look at people with a rotten eye. From the appearance alone, Yan Ran, the tall, long-legged, handsome young man who sings well, vs Qiao Wen, the tall, gentle, considerate and thoughtful agent. This pair of CPS are very basic. Gu Junru also educated Shen Yizi, in private, "Be careful not to get too close to Yan Ran, lest he use you as a shield later." Shen Yizi was a little confused. Gu Junru poked her forehead, "Are you stupid? Didn't you see the inseparable look between him and his agent? I wouldn't believe it if there was nothing wrong with these two people. Although homosexuality is not a big deal, you also know that our Chinese entertainment industry has a low tolerance for such things. Once this comes out, it will probably cause an earthquake. So you must not get involved with Yan Ran. Come on, do you know?" Shen Yizi nodded obediently. Gu Junru said this for her own good, and she appreciated it. However, what she did depends on her own heart. The disturbances from the outside world would not affect her. After Shen Yizi put on her clothes and came out, Yan Ran's eyes lit up when she looked at her. She subconsciously looked at Qiao Wen aside and saw that he lowered his head, seemingly sad, and she believed Gu Junru's words even more. It was a good thing she didn't know before, but now she knows. The more she looks at the two of them, the more she feels that there is an affair between them. Everything on the scene was in place, and just when filming was about to begin, a group of people barged in menacingly. The leading woman is very young, in her early 20s, with fair skin and black hair, tall and long legs, and is wearing a red dress. Although her sunglasses cover half of her face, it can be seen that she is a great beauty. It is really eye-catching and impressive. She was followed by a crowd of people. The scene was like a princess going on a tour. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 688. Gu Junru crossed her arms, raised her chin, and introduced to Shen Yizi, "Did you see that person? Wang Yi, the biggest shareholder in Yaoshi, is her father. She is a veritable little princess. She can walk sideways in Yaoshi." It turned out to be a real princess. Wang Yi took off her sunglasses to reveal her full face, and the staff reacted and came to say hello to her. Wang Yi waved her hand impatiently, scanning the whole place with her wonderful eyes, staying on Shen Yizi for a second, and finally falling on Yan Ran. She smiled brightly and ran towards him like a little girl who saw her beloved thing. "Brother Ran, I heard you were filming the MV here. Why didn't you call me? Yan Ran took out the arm she held and said, why did I call you? This is my job, not playing house. Wang Yi pouted and pointed at Shen Yizi with her tender white fingers. What about her? Why does she appear here? She is the heroine of my MV, so of course she has to be here. Okay, please step aside and don't cause trouble. I'm just going to take a day off. If I can't finish filming, it won't be so easy to take off next time. His role on the set has not been finished yet, and it took a lot of hard work this time to get director Lu to agree to give him leave. After Yan Ran finished speaking, he didn't care about Wang Yi. He turned around and slapped everyone. Okay, let's get started. Wang Yi stomped her feet bitterly. Brother Ran, why don't you let me be your heroine? Instead, invite this woman? Am I not as good as her, an 18th-tier actress? In addition to being the princess of Yaoshi, Wang Yi is also a new generation of love song queen. She is good at singing and composing. With Yaoshi's strong support, she is now on the front line of the entertainment industry. She is very popular and has millions of fans. If we just talk about fame, Zizi is naturally not as good as you. Before Wang Yi could be happy, Yan Ran continued, but who told me that I don't have feelings for you? If you are asked to be the heroine, I will definitely not be able to film. Produce the effect I want. Shen Yizi. Little brother, you will be beaten if you say this. Wang Yi was so angry that her chest bulged, and her fair face showed a layer of carmine. Shen Yizi clicked his tongue in his heart. He was so angry, but it was a pity that the master was so stubborn that he pretended not to see it. Yan Ran. I don't allow her to be your heroine. Your heroine can only be me, Wang Yi shouted at Yan Ran, with a layer of water in her eyes. Yan Ran's face turned completely cold. It's not your turn to decide who I want to be the heroine. Wang Yi stiffened her neck stubbornly, trying to push back the tears in her eyes. Yan Ran, if you choose this woman to be the heroine, believe it or not, you won't be able to release a single album. Are you threatening me? Yan Ran's eyebrows were sharp and there was a coldness in his eyes. Wang Yi's eyes flinched, but she couldn't bear the thought of the person she liked filming a music video with another woman. She raised her chin and said with great indulgence, yes, I am threatening you. It's up to you. Yan Ran sneered, waved his hands and left. Chiao Wen was frightened when he saw it, and hurriedly went up to him and stopped him. Hey, little ancestor, you can't give up. We have put so much effort into this album, and now it's almost over. How can you say no? Why don't you do it? Wang Yi was also frightened. She never expected that Yan Ran would leave directly. She would rather not shoot the MV than compromise with her. Yan Ran, stop. Who allowed you to leave? You have to shoot this MV today. God knows how long she has been waiting for his album. She had been looking forward to it ever since he posted the news about an album on Weibo. She had already planned to buy hundreds of copies of the album as soon as it was released. But now he says he won't do it if he doesn't want to do it. Has he considered the wishes of his many fans? How could he be so willful? Wang Yi felt extremely wronged. Yan Ran turned around and looked at her mockingly. Miss Wang is so majestic. Not only do you want to block me, but you also want to restrict my personal freedom? I'm so scared. Wang Yi was about to cry because of him. She obviously didn't mean that. Okay. Seeing that Yan Ran was determined to leave, she had no choice but to use her trump card, took out something and shouted at him, Brother Ran, look what this is. Yan Ran paused, but did not look back. Instead, he strode out. Wang Yi chased and shouted, Brother Ran, haven't you been looking for this conch? Hearing the word conch, Yan Ran stopped suddenly. When she turned around and saw the conch in Wang Yi's hand, her expression changed. She strode back and reached out to the conch from her hand. Where are you from? Wang Yi shrank back and covered her chest. Don't worry about where I come from, I won't give it to you easily. Yan Ran looked at her expressionlessly. Then what do you have to do to give it to me? Wang Yi couldn't stand being stared at by him, and she even stuttered a little. I want to compete with her. She looked at Shen Yizi. Shen Yizi. The people who eat melons are doing well, so why did the flames of war suddenly burn to her? Wang Yi calmed down and raised her chin proudly. Yes, I want to compete with you. If I win, Brother Ran, you have to remove her and let me be the heroine. What if you lose? Yan Ran asked what Shen Yizi wanted to ask. Wang Yi has full confidence in herself, how could she lose? But since her brother asked so, she reluctantly answered. If you lose, I will give you this conch. The reason why she didn't directly threaten Yan Ran with the conch was because her pride and self-esteem did not allow her to do so. However, her brother actually said that he had no feelings for her. Then she would tell this from nowhere in front of everyone. Defeat the 18th line that emerged. Let's see what else brother has to say. After finishing speaking, Wang Yi said with a smile, how is it? Yan Ran looked at Shen Yizi with sincere eyes. Shen Yizi knew what he meant. It seemed that the conch that Miss Wang took out was very important to him, so important that he would not hesitate to let it go against his will. Okay, I'll compete with you, but I don't know what you want to compete with me. Wang Yi looked at Yan Ran. Brother Ran, since we are filming the MV for your title song, you can't find someone who knows nothing about music to do it, right? I think only people who truly understand this song can play it out perfectly and get the best shot, am I right? Even though Yan Ran didn't like this annoying young lady very much, he couldn't say that she was wrong against his will, so he could only nod. Wang Yi smiled brightly. In that case, let me compete with Shen Yizi to see who can sing the title song Touch better. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 689. Gu Junru suddenly grabbed Shen Yizi's arm and said, this Wang Yi is here to cause trouble. She is the little queen of love songs and her singing skills are good. To compete with Zhizi in singing, isn't that bullying? Zhizi's acting skills are indeed very good, but her singing skills are lacking. She has never heard her sing before, and her information does not show that she has any talent in singing. How does this compare? Shen Yizi looked at Wang Yi's provocative look and smiled lightly. She has heard Wang Yi's songs before. Her voice is clean and contagious, but she doesn't necessarily lose. After all, she has golden fingers. Before the official competition, the two people have 20 minutes to prepare. 20 minutes is only enough to listen to Touch 5 or 6 times. It is not easy to learn a song in such a short period of time and to sing it well. Wang Yi is confident because she has a special skill, her memory of what she hears. She can copy any song and music perfectly after listening to it once. After practicing it a few more times, she can incorporate her own style and characteristics into it. Musically, she has unparalleled talent. This is also the reason why she became famous so quickly. Although it is good that she has a big backer like Yao Shi, if she is a music idiot herself, then no amount of praise will be of any use. The song Touch has not been released yet, so neither of them has heard it. This is fair to both of them, but in fact, how can it be fair? Wang Yi thought she had great talent, but she didn't know that Shen Yizi also had his own unparalleled advantages. In her previous life, she was a queen who swept the music scene. However, her voice broke due to an accident and she could no longer sing. This matter has always been a knot in her mind. After rebirth, she found that the sound conditions of this body were even better than those of her previous life. So, if it was a singing competition, she had nothing to fear. The various skills mastered in the previous life, coupled with the talent of this body, The combination of the two will definitely create an extraordinary sensation. Gu Junru was still worried that a good opportunity had been disrupted like this, and no one could be calm. Zhizi. Sister June, don't worry, I won't lose. Even if she can't win, she will never lose. The two of them entered a room alone. Yan Ran turned on her phone, found the single she had recorded before touch, clicked on the single loop, and set the timer. Then he leaned against the window with his arms folded and waited quietly. I have basic singing skills here, do you want to redeem them? Once redeemed, these skills will be directly mastered by you. The system does not miss any sales opportunity. Shen Yizi ignored him and listened to the song carefully. Do you think your voice condition is good enough? Do you think you have mastered the skills of singing? Ha, naive. No matter how beautiful the jade is, it needs to be carefully polished by craftsmen before it can fully bloom into its amazing beauty. This body of yours has not been systematically processed before. Training, it's difficult to win this competition. Shen Yizi had to admit that the system was right. Her only disadvantage was that the time she had to master this body was too short, and she did not have time to develop the advantages of this body. Alas, it seems that I can only bleed once. 20 minutes passed by in a flash, and touch stopped abruptly before the fifth play was finished. Yan Ran put away her phone and looked at Shen Yizi. How is it? Huh, what can I do? I'm afraid I don't even remember the lyrics, right? Seeing that Yan Ran only cared about Shen Yizi, Wang Yuyi was very angry. Shen Yizi smiled and turned his beautiful eyes around Yan Ran. My little brother is a man of both sexes. He is very lucky, so she won't get involved. After leaving the room, Shen Yizi gave Gu Junru a comforting look. The competition is a cappella singing competition, so that you can best see a person's voice quality and singing skills. Wang Yuyi did her part and took the lead in singing. As expected of a little queen, she stunned everyone present as soon as she opened her voice. While singing, Wang Yuyi was very focused, her eyes only fixed on Yan Ran, as if he was the only one in the world. In this way, there is inevitably a touch of lingering meaning in the singing. Just 3.5 minutes later, Wang Yuyi finished her song and everyone gave her applause. Wang Yuyi looked at Yan Ran with a bright expression on her face, but she saw that his face was pale, not at all as admiring as the others. She couldn't help but feel a little bit in her heart, and had a bad feeling. But he held his face firmly and pointed his chin towards Shen Yizi. It's your turn. If Wang Yuyi's singing voice makes people feel beautiful, then Shen Yizi brings everyone a shock. The beautiful singing is like the moonlight gently brushing over their souls, and pictures unfold in front of their eyes one after another. They saw the evening sunset shining on the green glazed tile roof, reflecting the magnificent gilded color. They saw a lingering drizzle fall in the early morning, and a gorgeous crabapple flower quietly bloomed in the hazy rain curtain. Seeing the vigorous eagle soaring under the clear blue sky, its wings drawing free and unrestrained arcs, seeing the sea hitting the shore, rolling up piles of snow-white waves. The song fell, and the lingering sound still echoed in my ears. In just a few minutes, they experienced an audio-visual feast of sounds and colors. Everyone was reluctant to wake up from their intoxication for a long time. Yan Ran looked at Shen Yizi with burning eyes, suppressed excitement and joy in his eyes. Wang Yuyi looked at her with a dejected expression, like a defeated little white goose. The beautiful and slender neck unconsciously drooped. She didn't need anyone to judge her, she knew that she had lost, completely. She handed the conch to Yan Ran, resisted the urge to cry, and turned to leave. Yan Ran was stroking the conch, his head lowered, making his expression unclear, and his whole person looked gloomy. The conch in his hand is about the size of a palm, with a warm light on its surface, and the patterns on it are somewhat faded. It must have been there for a long time. Shen Yizi felt that he was in a low mood and patted his shoulder. Are you still filming the MV? Shoot, why not, but I have a new idea. Yan Ran's new ideas almost overturned the original shooting plan. He wanted to record Touch again and pass the original one directly. But he is the ancestor and the financial owner, so naturally everyone can only follow his wishes. Yan Ran played the song Touch with a conch shell, joined in the accompaniment, and changed the original solo into a chorus, a duet between him and Shen Yizi. The two rehearsed it once and found that the effect was unexpectedly good, so they made the decision. After shooting the interior scenes in the studio, I rushed to the next place non-stop to shoot the exterior scenes. Originally planned to be 1 day of shooting, it ended up taking 3 days to complete. But after seeing the finished product, everyone was excited. Perfectly beautiful movie-like images, stunning beauties, and heavenly singing voices are all included in this MV. Everyone has almost anticipated how popular this album will be. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 690. Yan Ran waved her hand and invited everyone to the hotel for a meal. Halfway through the meal, Yan Ran received a call from Lueguo. Yan Ran, don't you want to stay on the set? What about the 1 day you promised? It's been 3 days, why haven't you come back yet? If you don't want to film, please tell me as soon as possible so as not to waste everyone's time. Bala, Yan Ran's face turned the color of bitter melon when she heard this, and she couldn't help but burp like orange juice. As a singer, protecting one's voice is the most basic quality, so when everyone came to toast just now, he used juice instead. Lueguo became even more furious when he heard him burping. Didn't this kid ask for leave to shoot the MV? It turned out that he was eating and drinking with others. Simply unforgivable. Yan Ran suddenly felt a chill on his neck, and his desire to survive prompted him to be resourceful. He pulled Shen Yizi over, put the phone to her ear, and said, "The Demon King of Lu." Shen Yizi was so funny that he took the phone and called Director Lu. Upon hearing her voice, Lueguo's attitude immediately changed 180 degrees. Zizi is here too. Why haven't you called me recently? You forgot about me as soon as you left the set, right? How can I do that, Director Lu? I'm afraid of disturbing your filming. I just made some sauce meat 2 days ago and sent it to you. I also made some health tea. Remember to drink it? Okay, I will definitely drink it. Lueguo was so happy that he couldn't open his mouth from ear to ear. The two chatted for a while before ending the call. Shen Yizi returned the phone to Yan Ran and conveyed Lueguo's words to him. Director Lu asked you to return to the crew as soon as possible after shooting the MV. Don't delay outside too much, which will affect the shooting progress. Yan Ran shrugged. Oh, I have to go back to the set to accept the destruction of the big devil again. Shen Yizi smiled and gave him a chopstick to comfort him. When I returned to the manor, it was already past 11 o'clock in the evening. The entire manor was dark and silent, with only the ground lamps beside the path emitting a faint halo, flying insects hovering around, and the delicious fragrance of grass and trees floating in the air. Shen Yizi felt strange. In the past, when she came back, the manor was always brightly lit, and Goose Whitting appeared in front of her early. Why was there no movement today? Haven't he come back yet? Just as she was about to push the door open and enter the house, a force of buoyancy under her feet lifted her up to the rooftop on the top floor of the villa. Her feet touched the ground and she looked around. What kind of tricks is Goose Whitting playing with her? Why didn't she see anyone else when she was brought here? A group of colorful light spots suddenly appeared in her field of vision, growing from small to large, slowly floating, or to be precise, swimming in front of her. This is actually a group of fish floating in the air. They swim in the air as if swimming in the water, their fins flap leisurely, their bodies are colorful, as if they are filled with starlight, their mouths open and close, spitting out a string of tiny bubbles. Shen Yizi touched the bubble with his finger in surprise, and popped it with a pop, but then, more bubbles appeared. The flying fish surrounded her, changing shapes flexibly. One moment they were flowers, another moment they were clouds, and the next moment they formed a spiral shape, entangling her inside. In less than 2 seconds, the school of fish dispersed again, and Goose Whitting's figure was revealed. The fish formed a colorful ribbon and swam back and forth between the two people. Goose Whitting stretched out his hand, caught the leading flying fish, and threw it into the air. The other fish followed closely, drawing a rainbow-like trace in the air. Immediately afterwards, he snapped his fingers, and the fish seemed to hear some kind of instruction and swooped down at extremely fast speeds, like meteors falling from the sky. There are golden ones, blue ones, purple ones, white ones. It seems like a gorgeous meteor shower. That scene was as beautiful as a dream. Shen Yizi looked at it, a smile appeared on his face unconsciously, and his eyes were reflected with thousands of bright lights, which was beautiful without even knowing it. Goose Whitting hugged her into his arms and kissed her eyes. "Do you like it?" Of course Shen Yizi liked it. She liked it so much that she took the initiative to hug his neck and rubbed his chin. "What kind of fish is that?" "Ification." Shen Yizi repeated it, then suddenly reacted and glared at him. "You are kidding me, how can this fish have the same name as me? These fish exist because of you, so they are naturally named after you." Goose Whitting looked at her, his eyes full of light and his smile intoxicating. Shen Yizi was bewitched by his male for a moment. She woke up and pinched his face, trying to distort his handsome face and tell him to discharge electricity at her. However, under his tender gaze, she could not be cruel to him, but she felt uncomfortable at first. "What does it mean to exist because of me? I didn't create these fish." Goose Whitting held her higher and pressed her forehead. "Fool, today is your birthday, did you forget?" Shen Yizi had really forgotten about it. When he mentioned it, he was a little surprised. "So you brought these fish specially to celebrate for me?" "Well, I saw that these fish were beautiful, and I thought you would like them, so I got some. Otherwise, they would still be sitting on the dark bottom of the sea, never seeing the light of day. So these fish exist because of you, and there is nothing wrong with them." "No." Goose Whitting said it lightly, but these Hizzy fish originally lived tens of thousands of miles deep under the sea. It was not an easy task to bring so many of them up safely and keep them alive and kicking. They are sea fish, how can they swim in the air? It's just a little bit of magic. If you want to know, I can teach you. Under Goose Whitting's step-by-step guidance, Shen Yizi quickly learned how to control those flying fish, making them rise and fall, gather and disperse, as happy as a child. I don't know what Goose Whitting did, but those Hizzy fish suddenly gathered together and formed a huge fish, which picked up the two of them. Under the moonlight, on the flying fish, Goose Whitting hugged Shen Yizi and kissed his lips that he had been thirsty for a long time. This beautiful and dreamy scene, if it were photographed and posted on Weibo, there would probably be a lot of people shouting, "This is what love looks like." Early in the morning, Shen Yizi experienced the feeling of being woken up by a kiss. "Goo, When she opened her mouth, he took advantage of the situation and rolled his tongue around her to dance wildly. He ate this meal with his and never finished it, as if he wanted to chew her up and swallow her. When he first woke up, he was already very powerless, and being pressed down by him and doing such mischief, Shen Yizi felt that all the strength in his body had been drained away, and he could only let him do whatever he wanted. That embarrassing appearance was so delicate, charming, and beautiful that it almost tickled his heart. Goose Whitting's eyes glowed red. He just wanted to strip her naked, possess her, make her cry, and make her completely his. However, when she thought that she had only turned 19 last night and was still young, she had to suppress her eager desire. Shen Yizi was stared at by him, feeling apprehensive, frightened, but with a hint of secret and shameful expectation. However, most people are still afraid. In order to divert his attention, she suddenly had an idea and thought of the gift he gave her last night. A seed. An ordinary seed. The only special thing is probably, it's rounder, right? Goosewitting, why did you give me a seed? She took out the seed and waved it in front of his eyes.